Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Friday, and all of our guests today brought to you by, and that includes John Shannon, standing by. Brought to you by Quinsam Communications Group, the leading local communications integrator on Vancouver Island, connecting people through technology. Panthers over the Oilers 4-3, Florida up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Final, as we bring in NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCowan podcast, a hockey storyteller, John Shannon. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Donnie. How are you? Hey, Rick.
Hello. Hey, John, are we undoubtedly watching a Panthers team that is the best in hockey right now?
Well, it certainly looks that way. They've been complete, is what I would say, and they haven't made very many mistakes. And when they do make mistakes, they're able to rely on Sergei Bobrovsky to make the save. And when the other team makes mistakes, they capitalize on them. Pure and simple. It's one team just, in my opinion, overwhelming the other at key times.
That might have sounded like a silly question to ask, what I just asked there, but it's the Florida Panthers, and there's been a dark history there, and that's why I think a lot of people have a hard time believing it. You talk about mistakes, John. Did you believe, like a lot of people, that the Panthers made a huge mistake in signing Sergei Bobrovsky back in 2019?
For $10 million a year.
Yes.
$10 million a year. That was probably the number that shocked so many people. And let's face it, the first couple of years he was there, he was inconsistent. And remember last year when they got to the Stanley Cup Final, he was not the starting goalie in the first round against the Boston Bruins. It was Alec Lyon.
Yep.
And he did take over midway through that first series and has been lights out ever since. So I think a lot of people thought that, he was going to play his cards and get all the money, and Dale Talon signed him to that deal, and then it didn't really work out when Dale was there, and it has worked out for Bill Zito since he's taken over, and particularly in the last 2 playoff years.
John, if you would have told me that McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Bouchard would have no goals after 3 games, I wouldn't have believed you. These guys are not scoring. It's a big reason why they're down 3-0.
The learning curve is steep in the Stanley Cup Final, Rick. I think that you're looking across to the other team and saying, wow, they are succinct in everything they do. The Oilers are not being able to get to the front of the net very often. They were much better in Game 3 than they were in the first 2 games. But at the same time, there really wasn't very many high-danger chances to what the Oilers were doing in the offensive zone. Too many shots from the outside. And how many times did we see, particularly when we're talking about Evan Bouchard, how many times did we see him try to shoot the puck and there was a stick in the way, a skate in the way, a body in the way? The Panthers are paying the price. The lessons they learned last year in losing in 5 games to Vegas are being put into practice this year, and they're doing a magnificent job.
John, the last 5 Eastern Conference champs have come from Florida, Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers. If that state can't get behind hockey now, after the last 5 years, they never will. But do you think they're making...
Tampa's not a problem, Rick. Tampa sells out.
No, I know, but I'm just saying overall.
Tampa's a hockey hotbed. Well, yeah. I think the issue is that you have to understand where in the sporting sphere does hockey fit in Florida.
Yeah,
everything's behind football. We all know that.
Yep.
The Miami Heat, who play downtown in Miami as opposed to Fort Lauderdale, are still probably more popular. But the Panthers are converting a lot of people, particularly north of the city of Miami, with what they have done. They have done tremendous outreach in the last couple of years. Their brand new practice facility, which is at an old refurbished arena or building downtown Fort Lauderdale, has become a kind of a mecca for hockey in that area. And this is a place that the players actually can drive their golf carts to practice. They're golf carts, not their cars. They're golf carts to practice. They have done a really good job in the last, I would say, 3 years of convincing people on the eastern side of the state that hockey is really good. And when you think about it, this just came to me. There is a good chance that 2 of the championships that Florida teams will have won, Tampa once, and Florida tomorrow night, will be won in Edmonton. Because the first Tampa Stanley Cup obviously was won in the bubble, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. You know, you hear coaches say good offense comes from defense, and then you watch what Barkov did last night on the Reinhart goal. He created the turnover, up the ice, bang, bang, back of the net. So many players are saying this guy's the best player in the world. Listen to the Panthers talk about this guy. We don't see him a ton, but man, he has been a monster in the playoffs.
Yeah, you know, I think that the key thing you said there is that we don't necessarily see him that often.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about the way that the schedule goes, and they are in the Eastern Conference, and they play in the South. They do play against Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa more than they would play against other teams in Canada.
Yep.
But he is, I think he is the most complete 200-foot player in the game right now. Does he have the offensive skill that Connor does? No, he doesn't. But you know, certainly from a protective point of view, the way he checks, the way he uses his big body, he has become a prototypical power forward in the National Hockey League.
John, you wouldn't know it, but the Panthers, with all sorts of travel issues getting into Edmonton, and a lot of people were wondering, would it have a negative effect on the way they played Game 3? It turned out that didn't happen. You've been around for a long time. You've been covering hockey for a long time. What was your I'm putting you on the spot here. Your worst travel experience when it comes to covering National Hockey League games?
Travel, travel, not really much of an issue. We did, I remember doing a Stanley Cup playoff series, a conference final, in fact, I think if memory serves me, between the Edmonton Oilers and the Minnesota North Stars in the mid-'80s, 84 maybe, where we were caught in a blizzard in May in Bloomington, Minnesota, and we had the game delayed, I think, 2 days. That was so, and nobody could get in or out. But that was probably the worst thing, was actually having the game postponed at a time when everybody else was playing golf around the world, and we were stuck in a blizzard in the Twin Cities. But I travel. Listen, do you know how long they were late compared to they were supposed to arrive in Edmonton? 2.5 hours.
Yeah, okay, 3 hours. I was going to say
2.5 hours. Yeah. You know, this was well planned out. They knew they could get out of Fort Lauderdale. You know, they allowed their players to sleep in their own beds for 2 extra days. They had practice for 2 extra days in their own practice facility. It was, in the end, it might look like the smartest move, period, when you think about travel and angst. The only people that had angst was all of us, you know, checking the air traffic control stuff to try to figure out when they were getting to town.
Yeah. Now, you know what? That's another silly question I asked, because you're John Shannon. You wherever you traveled, it was first class. It was on the Concorde, I think. I don't know why I even asked that. You never had problems.
Listen. When I started in the Pullman car, Donnie, you know, and the Canadians were in the front of the train, and the Red Wings were in the back of the train, and you know, it was Sid Abel and Rocket Richard. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. You still have the fedora to prove that. Hey, John, can you explain to I still can't wrap my head around this because I'm going to miss this website so much. Can you explain why it makes sense for the Capitals to buy CapFriendly?
Okay. I'll try, but before I do that, let me just do self-promotion.
Okay.
Bob and I are going to have Ted Leonsis on next Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
On the show. So I will ask him that specific question. That said, I think that there is probably they're not hiring the website. They're hiring the 2 guys that run the website.
Okay.
And so they do have a great capologist in Washington for Brian McClelland, but they're now going to have more. And so there have been so many issues when it comes to cap and how to do buyouts. And to me, this is good old free enterprise. This is good old. We're gonna, if we can't nurture the business, we're going to buy the business. And that's exactly what Ted Leonsis and Brian McClellan have done with CapFriendly. There will be other websites. I'm a Puckpedia guy that actually give the information, but these guys did not. The guys that built CapFriendly did not do CapFriendly out of charity.
Right.
They were doing this because they could make a living out of it, and they are going to have good jobs out of it because of that.
Make sure that Leonsis interview starts after 12 Pacific, okay? if you don't mind, when we're off the air.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
As you guys have learned, because I check the ratings every day, podcasting is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
You can listen to it on demand. Even Donnie and Dolly are on demand, and that's a good thing.
Agreed. We look forward to that interview like we look forward to interviewing you every week.
Yes.
John, thanks for this.
Boys, have a great day and have a great weekend. And to both of you, happy Father's Day.